Hello, this is Lisa, CEO of Site for Wight. Welcome you to this week's Talking News on Saturday the 3rd of June 2023. Today is a very important day because it's my dad's birthday. I'm visiting him this weekend, so happy birthday, Dad, from everybody here at Site for Wight. Monday morning, we have our IT drop-in day. Sam is here on hand to help you with any of your IT accessibility queries on your phone, tablet, computer or laptop. This is from 9:30 till 12:30 every Monday morning. Monday afternoon, starting at 1:15, we have our swimming at Medina Pool. We hire the whole pool out for our members. This group, Dolphins as it is known, has been running for over 27 years here for our members. So if you'd like to join, please don't hesitate to contact Susan on 522205. We do provide transport to this activity. Tuesday, we hold yoga at Millbrook House. Wednesday, we have our normal coffee morning, and this week it is followed by our Wight Sense catch-up and feedback meeting. This is an open meeting for anybody who has used the Wight Sense service. The meeting is an open meeting, and you can come and give us your opinion and your thoughts, comments, and feedback on how the service is working and anything we can do to improve. Thank you. It would be great to see as many people as possible. Thursday is our Mix and Mingle group, and Friday, Millbrook House comes alive with the Talking News team. The Talking News is recorded by our volunteers every week. It is a summary of the Isle of Wight County Press, the Island Echo, and the Isle of Wight Observer. The resultant 2 hours news is then available by USB, sent out free every week on our own Alexa skill, and through the website and YouTube. Finally, I'm delighted to say that everybody has made a recovery at Millbrook House after the illness last week, and apologies for having to cancel the clubs. But everything is now back to normal. Thank you, Lisa, CEO, Site for Wight.
This is Alison, reading an article from the Isle of Wight Radio entitled Island Sailing Club Member Lost Overboard in French Waters. The club has confirmed the sad news on its website. The popular member was taking part in the JOG Cows to Deauville yacht race last Friday night. The junior offshore group, JOG Yacht Racing, has confirmed that the man lost overboard from Alexa, a yacht in the Cows Deauville race, is Robin Lilly, a retired company director from St Lawrence on the Isle of Wight. He was sadly not recovered, despite an extensive air and sea search. The 33-foot offshore yacht is based in Cowes and was sailing with 4 experienced crew on the 100-mile race to the Normandy port. The French authorities who have administered the incident cannot be praised enough for their support to the skipper, Mark Winter, and crew who have now returned to the UK. JOG and all involved are cooperating with all UK authorities involved in continuing inquiries, and our thoughts remain with Robin's loved ones and all those affected at this difficult time. The following statement comes from the Commodore of Island Sailing Club. Tim Devlin said, "It is with enormous sorrow that I announce that we lost Robin Lilly, a long-serving member, overboard from Alexa, owned by our former Commodore Mark Winter, during the JOG race to Deauville on Friday night. Despite the best efforts of the skipper and crew of the boat, 2 helicopters, 4 lifeboats, 2 merchant ships and several other race competitors, he has not been found. The club will be saddened by this. Robin was a proud member of the club, and I am sure he will be much missed. JOG and all involved are cooperating with all the authorities in terms of the continuing inquiries. Our thoughts are with Robin's loved ones and all those affected."
This is an article from the Island Echo, read by Terry. Isle of Wight MP Bob Seeley among those under threat in Conservative rural wall seats. Swathes of the Conservatives' rural wall are defecting to Labour after years of economic neglect, according to a new report by Country Land and Business Association, that's CLA, and Survation. Polling of more than 1,000 people in England's 100 most rural constituencies reveals an 18% fall in Tory support and a Labour surge of 16%, putting the Conservatives at 41% and Labour 36%, almost neck and neck for the next general election. The Conservatives currently hold 96 of the 100 most rural seats in England, but applying this trend to the 2019 results would see them lose 20 seats in 2024. This includes the Isle of Wight's Bob Seely, who they say could lose his seat to Labour, as well as, among others, Chancellor Jeremy Hunt. His South West Surrey seat has been Conservative since 1983, but they say could now go to the Lib Dems. Despite the historic bond between the Conservatives and rural England, only 36% of those polled agreed the Conservatives understand and respect rural communities and the rural way of life, with Labour close behind at 31%. The survey reveals mounting frustration with economic policy and cost of living premium affecting rural communities. The majority of respondents, at 69%, agreed the government isn't doing enough to tackle the cost of living crisis in rural areas, and 33% said cost of living pressures are affecting the countryside more than urban areas. And of the political parties most trusted to stimulate economic growth in rural areas, between the Conservatives, Labour and the Liberal Democrats, the largest group of respondents, 34%, said, "Don't know," suggesting gains could be won by any party that offers an ambitious growth plan for the countryside. CLA South East represents thousands of farmers, landowners and rural businesses across the South East, including on the Isle of Wight. Regional Director Tim Bamford said, "In recent years, we've seen how quickly communities which feel left behind can rewrite the electoral map. In 2024, it could be the countryside's turn." There is a simple truth. No political party has at present shown that it understands, let alone shares, the aspirations of rural communities. The outdated planning regime holding rural businesses back, the lack of affordable housing driving families out, the outdated infrastructure limiting entrepreneurs' potential, it is all having a devastating impact. Any party which is willing to develop a robust and ambitious plan for the rural economy will secure significant support. Any party that wants to treat the countryside as a museum will be punished. The polling comes after the all-party Parliamentary Group for Rural Powerhouse published a report revealing how government neglect has created a cost of living rural premium. MPs found a shortage of affordable housing, inadequate power infrastructure, and poor connectivity has left rural communities spending 10 to 20% more on everyday items like fuel, despite wages being 7.5% lower than their urban counterparts. This CLA and Survation report is the first in a series examining the voting intention of the most rural communities. 12 million voters live in rural areas, representing a significant proportion, 16%, of the UK economy.
Hello, this is an article from the Island Echo, read by Sue. Residential care homes spreads joy with clay decorations. The residents of Inglefield Nursing and Residential Care Home located in Totland Bay have embarked on a heartwarming mission to uplift the spirits of the local community. They have created and decorated stunning clay models with the intention of brightening somebody's day and spreading happiness. In anticipation of the early bank holiday weekend, the residents took a delightful walk to hang their beautiful decorations in Totland. As they carefully placed each piece, they basked in the serenity of the surroundings, watching the boats glide by with hopes that passers-by would notice and be enchanted by their creations. Charlotte Willis, the home manager at Inglefield, expressed her excitement about this beautiful gesture, stating, "Everyone was overjoyed to be part of this initiative. Our residents put their heart and soul into creating these little surprise gifts, making them as pretty as can be. The act of hanging the decorations filled everyone with happiness, and the day was truly enjoyed by all." These clay models, crafted with love and care by the residents, are meant to serve as tokens of happiness for members of the local community.
Scam warning to tax credit customers across the Isle of Wight, from the Isle of Wight Radio, read by Lee. The HMRC has issued a new alert providing details of a number of new scams reported that aim to trick people into handing over money or personal information. We are being warned to be wary of possible scams which are using the same wording as genuine HMRC adverts. Criminals use deadlines, like the tax credits renewal deadline on the 31st of July, to target their victims, and the department is warning around 1.5 million tax credit customers to be alert to scams that mimic government communications to make them appear genuine. They say typical scam examples include emails or texts claiming an individual's details aren't up to date and that they risk losing out on payments that are due to them, or emails or texts claiming that a direct debit payment hasn't gone through, or phone calls threatening arrest if people don't immediately pay fake tax owed, or claims that the victim's national insurance number has been used in fraud, or emails or texts offering spurious tax rebates or bogus grants or support. Myrtle Lloyd, the HMRC's Director General for Customer Services, said, "Tax scams come in many forms, and we're urging customers to be alert to the tactics used by fraudsters and never to let yourselves be rushed. If someone contacts you saying they're from the HMRC and asks you to give personal information or urgently transfer money, be on your guard. Search HMRC scams advice on gov.uk to find out how to report scams and help us fight these crimes. Scam messages can be convincing, and individuals may be pressured into making rushed decisions. HMRC will never ring anyone out of the blue, making threats or asking them to transfer money. Visit gov.uk for information on how to report a scam or suspicious activity."
This is Alison reading an article from Isle of Wight Radio entitled Health Watch Report says it is a priority to increase access to NHS dentists on the island. Health Watch Isle of Wight have just issued this month's feedback from locals saying not being able to get dental treatment is residents' biggest concern. Health Watch Isle of Wight is the independent consumer champion for health and social care on the island and keeps a constant eye on how services are provided and what locals need for a good healthcare service here. They say a lack of access to NHS dentistry is affecting many people, families, children and older people in particular. People are also still experiencing problems in getting an appointment at their GP practice, and short notice closure of pharmacies are leading to difficulties in getting medication. The group has met with dental commissioners across Hampshire and the Isle of Wight to plan an event in June, bringing together dental providers and commissioners. They've also shared feedback about dentistry with the Isle of Wight MP, who agreed to write to the Hampshire and Isle of Wight Integrated Care Leads about access problems on the island. Joanna Smith is the Health Watch Isle of Wight manager. She said, "We have a busy community engagement programme and have been attending local events and community hubs. People are also able to share their experience with us via social media, through partner and voluntary sector organisations, by post, telephone, via our website, text or email. We are asking local community and voluntary organisations to be our eyes and ears so we can understand the experiences of those they support. We will be launching regular surveys to gather feedback about things that are important to local people. This will include surveys about the cost of living crisis and looking at people's experience of health and social care services. If you would like to get in touch with the Health Watch team to share your experiences, you can call them on 01983 608608 or email enquiries@healthwatchisleofwight.co.uk.
This is an article from the Island Echo, read by Terry. Control of the Isle of Wight Council could change hands in the coming weeks. The Conservative group leader says talks have been taking place amidst calls for a coalition cabinet where councillors from multiple groups would hold senior positions, which could result in a big change at the top. Throwing his hat into the ring, Councillor Joe Robertson, the Conservative group leader, confirmed discussions are underway with Empowering Islanders, that's EI, and other councillors. In recent weeks, the ruling Alliance Administration's cabinet has shrunk by 2 members. One quit and another wasn't allowed to keep his position after he left the group, leading to a reshuffle of responsibilities. The authority is currently run by Councillor Laura P.C. Wilcox with 7 cabinet members. Councillor Robertson said he has always said if he were to become leader, he would seek to appoint a coalition cabinet. He said, "Councillors do not need to be in the same political group as me to be in a cabinet led by me. I am confident there are very able and willing councillors from outside the Conservative group who would serve in a coalition cabinet, so I would be able to deliver on that promise." Councillor Robertson joined calls from EI to hold an extraordinary meeting of the Isle of Wight Council to determine if members had confidence in the authority's current leaders. If not, a new leader and deputy leader would be sought and a potential new coalition cabinet established. EI said a new leadership would provide financial and regulatory stability and would embrace all those across the chamber with experience. It said the current administration is attempting to run the council in an increasingly fragile mode, while rejecting talent from other parties and piling responsibilities onto a few members who were already significantly overburdened. Councillor Robertson said the situation was plainly untenable and it was bad for the authority and bad for the island. The Alliance has lost 4 councillors in the last month and is now the second largest group on the authority with 13 members. Councillor Chris Jarman, EI group leader and ex-cabinet member, said there was a lot of support for the cross-party working together, and it had been an objective of the group when it started.
Hello, this is an article from the Island Echo read by Sue. Pan Together benefits from donation by Energy Company. A charity supporting the Isle of Wight's most disadvantaged community can stock up on a week's supply without reaching into its own pockets thanks to a generous donation. The Utilita Energy Hub in Newport High Street held an Easter raffle last month, raising more than £144. Energy experts Andrew Owers and Dan Codling da Piedad had agreed to donate all proceeds to Pan Together, an organisation that provides a community hub for the residents of East Newport. Little did the pair know that the Utilita Giving, the company's charity arm, would double the amount they had raised, bringing the total to just under £300. Rachel Thompson, Pan Together's Community Centre manager, said, "We are really grateful to Utilita for this kind and generous donation. The charity's community support and anti-poverty services are, sadly, increasingly essential when the cost of living crisis is biting so hard for so many. This funding will help us to continue to provide stock for the Pan Community Larder, which is open 12 noon to 3 p.m. each Tuesday and Friday, for fresh, frozen, refrigerated, tinned and dried food and other household essentials for residents of Pan Meadows, Barton and Fairlea. Membership is free. Weekly access is £5 for 2 carrier bags of goods per local household, which visitors choose for themselves. No one needs a referral. According to September 2019's Indices of Deprivation, East Newport includes the Isle of Wight most disadvantaged area, ranked at 5.8% in England's most deprived neighbourhoods. To this community, Pan Together offers a cafe which provides freshly prepared, wholesome food at affordable prices, while also acting as a social hub for the neighbourhood. An IT learning suite with free Wi-Fi and 8 computer stations, 2 community rooms, a training kitchen with 6 fully functioning workstation, including 1 accessible for wheelchair users, and an outside area for growing produce. Andrew Owers and Dan Codling da Piedad, energy experts at Utilities Isle of Wight Energy Hub, said, "Not so long ago you'd struggle to find a food bank on the island. Now they mostly have queues out the door as times continue to get tougher. We are lucky to have people like Rachel and her team who work tirelessly to provide lifelines for support for those who need it most. Using our Easter raffle as a way to support them was the absolute least we could do, and we hope to work closely with Pan Together for some time to come." The Utilita Energy Hub in Newport High Street is open 6 days a week, 9 a.m. to 5:30.
Isle of Cats Facebook stars perfect visit to Cow's care home. From the Isle of Wight radio, read by Lee. Residents at Old Charlton House were thrilled to welcome a very special visitor, a handsome 5-year-old Bengal cat called Aurelius. Activities coordinator Debbie Webb describes herself as a crazy cat lady and has been watching the antics of Aurelius and his brothers Spartacus and Tiberius on Facebook page Isle of Cats for some time. She reached out to Vicky and a visit was arranged. Dr. Kieran and Vicky Cooney kindly brought Aurelius to come and visit the residents. He was a big hit, bringing smiles to the faces of all who met him. Debbie explained when residents come into a care home, they have often had to leave pets, and it's easier for relatives to pop in with dogs, but not quite so easy with cats. The residents flocked to the lounge when they heard there was a cat in the building, and they all remarked on how beautiful he was, his stunning markings, and how well behaved he was. Debbie said he received much fuss and attention from them, with everyone delighted to have the opportunity to engage with a cat again. Aurelius wanted to explore the whole room and said hello to everyone. He behaved so well and was an absolute delight to have in the home, especially considering that this was the first time that he had visited a care home. When someone becomes a care home resident, they often have to say goodbye to their pets, and whilst dogs are happy to travel and visit, cats are less so. The joy they received from the simple pleasure of stroking a cat was immense, and they talked about how wonderful it was for the rest of the day. They are also asking about when he might return. Resident Anne said, "It was wonderful to be able to stroke a cat again. He is so soft." Debbie said, "Interacting with animals has a positive impact on the well-being and mental health of our residents, and it is a privilege to be able to offer these experiences for our residents. I would like to thank the Coonies for allowing the delightful Aurelius to visit and giving up their time to come. It really meant a lot to our residents."
This is Alison reading an article from the Isle of Wight Radio entitled Silver Stars Parachute Team Confirm for Isle of Wight Armed Forces Day. They'll be dropping in on Ryde at some point during the afternoon of Sunday the 25th of June. The final touches are being put in place for this year's Isle of Wight Armed Forces Day, with the confirmation that the Silver Stars Army Parachute Display Team will be joining the celebrations. Talking about the logistics of the day, Armed Forces Day Chair, Councillor Ian Dorr, said, "Being frank, it's tricky. You have a Lancaster bomber plus a Spitfire, now one of the finest parachute display teams in the world. So in between the aircraft, you need to get a parachute team into the airspace and then down onto the sands safely. With all this aerial daring-do going on, it's not without its challenges. However, challenges feature a lot in armed forces life, and for teams like the Silver Stars, it's all part and parcel of putting on a blinding show for us lucky folk. The Royal Logistic Corps Silver Stars Army Parachute Display Team dates to September 1963 and was the first Army Parachute Display Team to be established. It currently comprises around 25 regular and reserve personnel. They conduct displays at low and medium altitudes to include stack formations. Councillor Dorr added, "This has real significance for the island. We have secured not only the first Army Parachute Display Team to be established, but they have an association with the Isle of Wight Troop in that they are from the Royal Logistic Corps." Coincidentally, Chris, the Vice Chair of the Armed Forces Day Committee, who serves in the Reservist Troop, has indicated he'd like to do some jumps, so I'm hopeful he'll sign on the dotted line after the display. One has to take that first step or fall as it is. Best boots forward and all that. Either way, we are going to be treated to a superb parachute display from one of the world's finest teams. Green light on. Follow the updates at www.isleofwightarmedforcesday.co.uk.
This is a message from Wight Link, read by Terry, regarding the ban on e-scooters. SWR travel ban on e-scooters. Please be aware that SWR, that's South West Railway, are banning e-scooters, e-unicycles, e-skateboards and hoverboards from all South Western Railways stations and trains from Thursday the 1st of June 2023. E-bikes, electric wheelchairs, mobility scooters and aids will continue to be allowed on stations and trains. Customers are advised to check in advance of travel if you are unsure.
Hello, this is an article from the Island Echo read by Sue. Bids invited from local organisations for adult community learning grants. Voluntary and community organisations providing education and learning opportunities for adults on the island can now bid for grant funding of up to £25,000. The Isle of Wight's Council Adult Community Learning Service has published a new prospectus for 2023-2024 detailing the scheme. Bids are invited from any enterprise that will use the funding to deliver services that widen access to adult learning opportunities. The service provides opportunities that engage adults in learning with a focus on those who have benefited least from the formal education system. The Council requires grant funding to deliver outcomes including helping people who are disadvantaged and least likely to participate in learning, improving the gaining of skills. These skills must prepare people for further education, training or employment. This may include achievement of qualifications. Developing stronger communities by promoting cultural diversity, equality of opportunity, volunteering and involvement in local decision making. Delivering a range of universal and targeted family learning courses and workshops supporting an early intervention and prevention model by developing resilience within families. Supporting early intervention and prevention through a range of innovative programs to support Multiply, a government-funded numeracy project. Multiply will help adults understand and use maths in daily life, at home and in work. The grant funding prospectus provides more information about our expectations. To obtain a copy of the prospectus and an application pack, contact Rob Brindley in the Adult Community Learning Service by emailing robert.brindley, which is BRINDLEY, at iow.gov.uk, or calling 01983 817 280. Once organisations have read through the prospectus, they are encouraged to contact Rob and discuss their ideas. The deadline for receipt of completed application is 1500 on Friday the 30th of June 2023.
This is the second part of Talking News, read by Lynn
and Jerry.
And before we start the second part of the Talking News, here is this week's Society's News. There is no scaffolding news this week. Swimming on Monday is between 1:15pm and 2:15pm at Medina Leisure Centre, Newport. If you would like to come along for a swim or just relaxation in the water, we have the use of the whole pool and we are always looking for new members to join the group.
Every Monday, 9:30 till 12:30pm, we have drop-in sessions where members can come into Millbrook House to learn about accessibility features on computers, laptops, tablets and phones. Sam, our accessibility officer, will be on hand to help with any questions.
Our monthly God's Hill coffee morning is on Tuesday the 6th of June at the Old Smithy, God's Hill, between 10:30 and 12 o'clock. Please go and join our lovely volunteers Yvonne and Linda for coffee and a chat.
Yoga is on Tuesday at Millbrook between 1:45pm and 2:45pm. Refreshments will be served afterwards. Please note this is a new time.
Coffee and chat will be on Wednesday between 10am and 11:30am here at Millbrook House. Please come along and chat with members, friends and staff. Laura Guljar, the ECLO officer from St Mary's, will be joining us.
For any other information of the activities or events mentioned, please do not hesitate to call the office on 522205.
Tributes to the victim in murder probe. Police were called to Ryde in early hours of Sunday. The family of a man who died from suspected stab wounds in Ryde say they are completely heartbroken. Tommy Lee Barton, 30, from Brading, was pronounced dead following an incident in Park Road. A murder investigation was launched this week. Paying tribute, his family said, "We are completely shattered at the loss of Tommy. He was a father, son, brother, uncle and friend. He has been stolen from us and we are completely heartbroken. He will miss out on so much of life, particularly seeing his beloved daughter grow up. The world is quieter without him and we will never fully recover. We are grateful for the support and love we have received and hope you will all remember him as he was, a caring and generous man that lived his life to the maximum. We ask that you will please respect our privacy at this time."
2 men in court to face murder charge. 2 Isle of Wight men have appeared in court accused of murdering 30-year-old Tommy Barton. Cameron Wayne Baker of Lead Street, Sandown, and Rio Tyrrell Scott of Park Road, Ryde, appeared before Southampton magistrates on Wednesday. The pair, both 27, have been charged with murder following an incident in Ryde on Sunday. Their cases were adjourned to today at Winchester Crown Court for the next hearing. A 24-year-old woman from Shanklin, who was arrested on suspicion of murder, has been bailed with conditions until August the 28th, pending further inquiries. Police and paramedics were called to Park Road at around 3 a.m. on Sunday. Mr. Barton of Brading was pronounced dead en route to hospital. A spokesperson from Hampshire and Isle of Wight Constabulary said on Sunday, "An investigation into the exact circumstances is underway, but it is in its early stages. From our inquiries so far, we believe that this was an isolated incident with those involved known to each other." DCI Andrea Douglas, who is overseeing the investigation, said, "Our thoughts are with the man's family and we are working hard to understand the exact circumstances of what happened." She appealed to the local community, "If you have any concerns or anything which may assist our investigation, then please do not hesitate to speak to us."
A footpath remains closed after landslip. The fascinating steep and narrow walkway, the Devil's Chimney in Bonchurch, will remain closed for months following land movement. The rocky cliff face, beloved of walkers, has suffered damage after movement above and below the famous steps. One of the island's hidden treasures, the attraction is popular with walkers and has a coveted 4.5 rating on TripAdvisor. The section is closed off and will remain so all summer. A spokesperson for the Isle of Wight Council said, "The public footpath V65C within Devil's Chimney is currently unsafe. Significant movement has occurred to the concrete steps and there has been a landslide at the top on the western side. Landslip has also caused damage to a set of timber steps on the path to the south of the chimney section. We will be securing geotechnical advice on conditions in the chimney section. The path is likely to be closed for at least a number of months while this advice is obtained and safe reopening can be considered. Also closed is the walk from Shanklin to Bonchurch via Luckham due to ground movement. Currently, part of Eastern Esplanade at Ventnor is closed due to deterioration of the seafront walkway."
Pair jailed for HMP Isle of Wight spice paper smuggling. A man and a woman have been jailed for attempting to smuggle spice paper into the Isle of Wight prison. On Friday, May the 26th, Adam Wald, 39, of HMP The Verne, and Nicola Hine, 50, of Lambton Road, Hounslow, appeared before a judge at Reading Crown Court. They both admitted conspiring to convey a List A prohibited article into prison between November 2019 and July 2020. Ward and Hine conspired to smuggle sheets of spice paper into HMP Isle of Wight, where Ward was imprisoned at the time. Hine concealed the drug paper within post and fake legal documents, using the postal service to have them delivered into the prison. They were intercepted and the pair were charged on August the 10th, 2022. Investigating Officer Detective Constable Robbie Scott of Serpit said, "This sentencing reflects the hard work and collaboration by the police and prison service. It highlights the serious nature of conveying drugs into prisons, which have been a damaging effect on good order as well as the safety of prisoners and staff. Serpit will continue to pursue those offenders who choose to commit this type of criminality." Ward was jailed for 20 months, while Hine was jailed for 16 months.
Schools closures uncertain. A petition is trying to save Ryde St Mary's Catholic Primary School, one of 4 primaries whose fate was left hanging in the balance this week. A decision to launch a 6-week consultation loomed, mentioned in the Isle of Wight council papers that were subsequently withdrawn. The amalgamation of Chillerton and Rookley with Godshill Primary from the 1st of January 2024 and the September 2024, at the earliest, closure of 3 others would be subject to consultation. In their newsletters this week, Cowes Primary School head Stephanie Preitig said, "No decision has been taken yet, and it is business as usual." While Wroxall Primary's head Lynn Torrance said, "This information will be unsettling. Be assured the earliest point any changes could be made would be September 2024. We remain fully committed to supporting the best outcomes for all children and their families." There are around 200 empty seats in primary classes, and the Isle of Wight Council said it has been working closely with head teachers and governing bodies to take decisive action. Education leaders say the current situation is grossly inefficient. Hard to recruit teachers are spread too thinly across too many schools, they say, adding, "It is not a reflection on the work of the school's current staff and leadership, nor the quality of teaching." They argue it is about creating financially and educationally sustainable schools. Peter Shreve, Peter Shreve, Assistant District Secretary of the National Education Union, said, "Sustained austerity and the impact of falling rolls has meant this announcement is not unexpected. However, it has come as a shock to staff, pupil and families. Staff have been quick to raise concerns. At this stage, we can only await further details within the formal statutory consultation progress." Mark Chiverton, Branch Secretary of the Unison Isle of Wight, said, "It's absolutely essential there should be the fullest possible consultation. This must include the complete involvement of trade unions representing all categories of staff at every stage. Unison will be seeking to work alongside all trade unions with members in schools to ensure effective and meaningful dialogue with counsellors and senior management. The St Mary's Primary petition, launched by Ryson Muller Jacobs, which has already gathered hundreds of signatures, argues St Mary's is the only Catholic primary school in Ryde, and closure would leave parents having to send their children to an alternative faith school up to 21 miles away. There are 39 primary schools on the island, offering 1,379 reception places, the equivalent of 46 classes. In 2022-23, there are 213 vacant reception places, the equivalent of 7 classes. A primary school gets just over £4,023 for each pupil on roll, and if places are vacant, funds are stretched more thinly. It is estimated there would have been £856,951 in additional funding if there were no vacant reception places this academic year. There is also a falling birth rate on the island. By 2025, the Isle of Wight Council says there will be 1,200 fewer primary school children compared to 2017.
Trial of extra late crossing. An additional late crossing of the Cowes to East Cowes floating bridge is being trialled until August. The aim is to provide better accessibility for Red Funnel ferry passengers travelling on the 11:59pm vehicle ferry service from Southampton to East Cowes. Starting yesterday, the chain ferry is making a single crossing from East Cowes to Cowes at 1:20am, shortly after the arrival of the Red Funnel vehicle ferry at around 1am. Normally, the floating bridge final run is at 12:30am. Without it, passengers trying to get to Cowes and the east of the island have previously had to arrange longer journeys and onward transportation from East Cowes. Councillor Phil Jordan, Isle of Wight Council's Cabinet Member for Transport and Infrastructure, said, "Last year we carried out a survey of Saver card holders who are regular users of the service. One of the suggestions made to us was for a late night link up to meet the last car ferry of the day from Southampton. The council wanted to respond to this idea in a positive way and believes it is important to improve transport connections on the island when we can. Hence the introduction of this trial until the end of August. However, there will be no late night connection if the floating bridge breaks down and has to be replaced by a passenger launch." The Isle of Wight Council told the county press the alternative launch service ends at 11pm and would not fill in for the extra sailing. East Cowes residents hoping to return after a night out in Cowes will be out of luck. Meanwhile, there will be no return sailing across the Medina.
A message on a postcard to government. The Isle of Wight Council leader revealed she sneaked a postcard into the bag of Secretary of State Michael Gove to remind him to get the local authority the millions of pounds it desperately needs. Councillor Laura P.C. Wilcox said she went lock, stock and smoking barrel on the government cabinet minister during their 2-hour conversation while he was visiting the Isle of Wight for the Islands Forum last Thursday. Councillor P.C. Wilcox said the council needs the extra funding to get its nose above the water. "I had to make the most of the time I had with him so he understood the challenges," she told the county press. "We cannot survive if we do not have some form of funding." I think I probably said it to him 56 times during the 2-hour conversation. Councillor P.C. Wilcox said the 2-day forum was really productive. MP Bob Seeley said he was also confident progress had been made. He said it is now a case of waiting to find out what has been agreed. Representatives from 9 other UK islands travelled to the Isle of Wight for the Islands Forum. Mr. Seeley told the county press the event was about finding a common agenda with UK islands and getting better life opportunity for islanders. The focus was on jobs and skills, with visits to Seacam in Whippingham and White Shipyard in East Cowes. Among the issues Mr. Seeley raised were the island's bad phonics results, early stage reading. He said he has asked the government to arrange a conference for island schools so they can share phonics experiences to drive up results. He said access to continued professional development for teachers on the island is also lacking, impeding their ability to keep education standards up. Mr. Seeley also called for the Isle of Wight to have the resources to offer 3-year university courses. The issue of ferries will be prioritised at the next meeting.
Fruit machine thief blew holiday cash. A jobless man who came to the Isle of Wight with his children and grandad and frittered away all their holiday money on booze and gambling tried to retrieve his losses by breaking into a fruit machine. Robert Bernal Soria of Coriander Crescent, Guildford, admitted theft and causing criminal damage at Lower Hyde Holiday Park, Shanklin, on April the 7th at the Isle of Wight Magistrates Court. The bench heard how the 41-year-old had spent the family's holiday funds at the bar and playing a fruit machine on the first night of their holiday. The park's manager watched Bernal Soria on CCTV lingering around the fruit machine later that evening, leaving the building and returning a couple of minutes later, said Leah Dillion, prosecuting. Bernal Soria then used screwdrivers to break into a fruit machine. Security challenged and detained him, finding £136 in change and 2 screwdrivers on his person. When arrested, he told the police he needed the money. Bernal Soria has 18 previous convictions for 41 offences, of which 17 were for theft. For Bernal Soria, Amy Hossel said her client had been drinking for a number of hours on the first night of the family's holiday and spent all their money. When he has been drinking and gambling, the two don't work well together, says Miss Hossel. Having lost all the holiday money on the very first night, that's when he decided to try to get the money back. It wasn't planned. He's a man who normally puts his children first, but made a very bad decision on that day, partly due to being intoxicated. Bernal Soria has also been struggling with the loss of his mother and other family issues. When sentencing Bernal Soria, presiding magistrate Gordon Cooper told him he came very close to being jailed, adding, "It's not the sort of thing your children need to see in any way, shape or form." Bernal Soria was handed 18 months probation, which included an order to do 180 hours unpaid work, with £85 costs, £114 surcharge and £50 compensation for the damage caused.
A banned driver ignored judge's jail threat. A prolific offender who drove erratically and crashed an MG while disqualified 3 weeks after a judge's suspended sentence order faces the likelihood of imprisonment when he appears at the Isle of Wight Crown Court this month. Leon Gladys of Southfield Gardens Ryde admitted failing to provide a blood sample for analysis, careless driving and driving without a licence and insurance near Brading on May the 10th. A driver and passenger were witness to Gladys overtaking them and other cars near McDonald's on Brading Road near Ryde, driving erratically and at speed, and called the police. At the Yarbridge Cross traffic lights, they saw Gladys again, a few cars in front, and watched as he sped off erratically again, attempting to overtake 3 vehicles at speed, almost resulting in a head-on collision, said Liz Miller, prosecuting at the Isle of Wight Magistrates Court. As Gladys tried to manoeuvre back in front of vehicles, he swerved, lost control, and upended into street furniture on Morton Common Road. The same 2 witnesses who reported Gladys to the police stopped in front of the 26-year-old. When they spoke to him, Gladys conceded he had no insurance. As the police arrived, the car Gladys drove had significant damage and they invited him to provide a breath sample. Gladys, a landscape gardener, blew 76 micrograms at the roadside, more than twice the drink-drive limit. But following his arrest, he refused to provide a blood sample at St Mary's Hospital in Newport. Gladys was handed an order by the Isle of Wight Crown Court of 19 weeks imprisonment, suspended for 2 years, 3 weeks before the incident. In July last year, Gladys was jailed for driving whilst disqualified, his 3rd such offence in 2022, on top of 4 such convictions. A prolific offender, Gladys had 26 previous convictions for 53 offences, which ranged from vehicle theft and criminal damage to burglary and intimidation of witnesses. Gladys was bailed to reappear for sentencing at the Isle of Wight Crown Court on June the 9th. Magistrates imposed a daily curfew to remain indoors between 6 p.m. and 6 a.m. and an interim driving ban.
High Street Police Hub planned. Police working in Cowes could soon have a new home and a permanent presence in the High Street. Around 9 years after Cowes police station closed, plans have been put forward to turn a former estate agent's into a hub for the town's police neighbourhoods team. The building at 126 High Street was previously occupied by Watson, Bull and Porter. Although the hub in Cowes is not a station and there would be no front counter to allow for public walk-ins, plans state that there would be an area set aside at the front of the building for pre-arranged public appointments. Cowes Police Neighbourhoods team currently operates from Cowes Fire Station. Proposals have been put forward on behalf of the Office of the Police and Crime Commissioner, PCC, for Hampshire and the Isle of Wight. An application submitted to the Isle of Wight Council said access into the property would be managed by site staff. There would also be a ramp for wheelchair users and, for when the police hub is shut, a yellow phone on the side of the building. The former Cowes police station on Mill Hill Road is now home to marine design and manufacturing firm Spinlock.
The Seafront Museum is a hidden treasure. Have you ever visited the Longshoremen's Museum in Ventnor? If you have, then it's time to pay another visit, as it has had a revamp. If you've never been, then you are in for a treat. Free to enter, it's a treasure trove of curiosities, models of days gone by, photographs of old Ventnor and fossils. The Longshoremen's Museum is run by Sophie Blake, 57. She was born in the building back in the day when it was her family's home. Now it is a museum standing on Ventnor Esplanade, opposite the beach where the Blake family has worked for decades. Enter through the gift shop and it is tucked away towards the back, a TARDIS-like treat. If you're interested in local and maritime history, you are bound to get lost here for hours. Sophie runs the museum section of the building as a labour of love, gaining no income from it except what is left in the donation box. This year she has remodelled the shop and installed a new floor and has installed stained glass windows rescued from the old Gaiety Amusements arcade next door. Sophie's family began their beach business in 1830 and she has all the history logged in the museum. The Blakes have done it all, from building, bathing machines to running boat trips. Now they concentrate on the museum and the gift shop, while Sophie's son Paul Berry and his partner Abby look after the beach huts, deck chairs and popular tea hut.
Divers help with bridge inspection. Specialist divers have been helping Island Roads inspect the condition of Yarmouth Bridge. The contractor was joined by a team from Ireland-based MMC Diving Services to carry out a detailed investigation to identify the bridge's condition so maintenance and repair work can be planned. The study included the bridge deck, both the underside and the road surface, and the piles that support the structure. Most of the bases are below water, even at low tide, so specialist dive teams were needed to undertake the inspection. MMC's experts plunged into the River Yar, assisted by a support team, to make assessments which were then passed back to Island Roads team, watching from a specialist floating platform set up to support the operation. The work was carried out in addition to a surveying regime undertaken by Island Roads with the support of Yarmouth Harbour Commission, to ensure the bridge remains in good working order and meets modern safety requirements. Recent major work has included the installation of a safety barrier on the Yarmouth side. In late 2019, the entire bridge was stripped back to the metal and completely repainted with a highly durable maritime paint. Given its location, its heavy use and the fact it has moving parts, it is important Yarmouth Bridge is subject to a particularly rigorous inspection regime, said Island Road Structures Inspection Team Leader Vicky Keefe. The results of this principal inspection will help us decide the future's repair and maintenance requirements for what is a vital piece of the West Wight's transport infrastructure. Yarmouth Bridge is the island's second largest bridge and carries the A3054 Bridge Road over the tidal mouth of the River Yar. It is a 7-span structure comprising main steel beams with timber decking. What makes the bridge unusual is the operational swing span to allow vessels safely in and out of the harbour. Island Roads has responsibility for 199 bridges and 568 retaining walls.
A school maintains good rating despite upheaval. After major changes at an island primary school, including a move to another village, it has maintained its good Ofsted rating. It is the first inspection of Freshwater and Yarmouth C of E school by the education watchdog since it moved from Yarmouth to the former All Saints site in Freshwater, which had undergone a multi-million-pound refurbishment. While inspectors said the two schools had been successfully merged into a positive and friendly community, leaders had not prioritised the most important actions to improve the school further. It comes after results at the school last year were not as strong as they could have been. Leaders are focused on addressing the issue, the inspector said, but it lacks precision to bring about changes swiftly, and they should refine their thinking to prioritise things that will make a difference to pupils' learning. Overall, Ofsted inspectors found from their inspection in April, pupils thrive at the welcoming school and learn to be respectful, develop resilience, and build positive relationships. Leaders and staff have high ambitions for all pupils, including those with special educational needs, and pupils respond positively to those expectations by working hard, the inspectors said. They said leaders work to promote pupils' wider development is a strength of the school, with opportunities planned to expand their knowledge and experiences of the world beyond the island. Through the school's nursery, staff skillfully develop children's communication and language as they are encouraged to broaden their vocabulary, preparing them well for reception. Pupils' ability to read is prioritised throughout the school so they can access the rest of the curriculum, which is well developed across subjects, although some aspects need further refinement. Inspectors said staff use secure subject knowledge and follow planning closely, which supports pupils to learn well. Leaders have introduced checks to make sure children are learning the most important content, and staff use that information to adjust their teaching. Safeguarding arrangements at the school are effective, and pupils are taught how to keep themselves safe in the community. Inspectors noted the collaborative approach between governors, staff and pupils meant everyone was proud of the school.
Dementia Care Hub approved. A dementia hub will be developed in Cowes after a 25-year lease was agreed by the Isle of Wight Council. Parklands will be developed by the Alzheimer's Cafe Isle of Wight into a community base with meeting area, activities, training, support and advice for patients and their families. The news was welcomed during the Alzheimer's Society Dementia Action Week earlier this month, and it came a year after an official Isle of Wight dementia strategy was officially launched. Maggie Bennett from Alzheimer's Cafe Isle of Wight said, "We are thrilled we will be able to work towards providing long-term support. Through activities and support, we will aim to ensure mental and physical health is a priority for people with dementia, as well as making sure that they will be able to access support and advice when they need it." Last year, an estimated 2,655 people over the age of 65 on the island were living with dementia. That could increase to 3,920 by 2030. Councillor Carl Love, speaking when he was Isle of Wight Council's Cabinet Member for Adult Social Care, said, "I am delighted the hub will be providing much needed support. We would like to thank our strategy partners and everyone that contributed. in particular our island residents and important volunteer carers.
A boost for the LGBTQ+ History Initiative. Stone Crabs has been awarded a grant of £76,760 from the Heritage Fund for its new project, Pride in Self, Pride in Place. The project aims to explore the role of the NHS in LGBTQ+ culture on the Isle of Wight during the 1980s and the 1990s, a time when the LGBTQ+ community was fighting for recognition and support in the face of Section 28 and the AIDS pandemic. The project is all about creating a safe and welcoming space for LGBTQ+ individuals to share their life experiences through oral history recordings. Stone Crab's artistic director, Franco Figueiredo, said, "We're thrilled to have received this grant from the National Lottery Heritage Fund, and we're grateful for the opportunity to continue exploring and celebrating LGBTQ+ history. We hope this project will raise awareness and promote inclusivity, inspiring other organisations to explore and share LGBTQ+ history in their own communities." Pride in Self, Pride in Place project manager Caroline Diamond said she was looking forward to working closely with Solent NHS, which she described as one of the island's biggest and most inclusive employers. Channel 4 documentary It's a Sin highlighted the 1980s and 1990s as a turbulent time for LGBTQ+ people struggling with Section 28 and the AIDS pandemic. Pride in Self, Pride in Place aims to research the period in more detail, producing an exhibition of its findings, which will be displayed at Carisbrooke Castle Museum. The Classic Boat Museum is also collaborating with the project. Museum trustee Dr. Victoria Preston said, "We look forward to hosting events at the museum and wish Stone Crabs every success with this project and well-deserved grant award." Stone Crabs is a pioneer on the island, not only for raising awareness about LGBTQ+ issues, but also for making everyone feel included. LGBTQ+ people and allies who are passionate about the cause can help with various tasks, such as conducting research, organising events, and assisting with interviews. Find out more at stonecrabs.co.uk and outonAnisland.co.uk, or find them on social media.
Man admits assaults, arson, drink driving. A military veteran will appear before the Crown Court after pleading guilty to arson, drink driving and multiple assaults on police officers. Lee Cross of Sherborne Avenue Ryde attended the Isle of Wight Magistrates Court on Tuesday, May the 23rd, to plead guilty to arson, drink driving, using threatening, abusive or insulting words or behaviour with intent to cause fear of violence. 4 counts of assault by beating an emergency worker and 2 counts of common assault of an emergency worker. Liz Miller, prosecuting, said Cross has been spotted on doorbell footage by one of his neighbours at 9:24 p.m. on April the 14th, 2023, before realising their green wheelie bin was alight. The neighbour confronted the 36-year-old, who initially denied involvement, but admitted guilt after being told he was caught on camera. Mrs. Miller said the bin was very close to the house, and if she, the neighbour, hadn't seen him on the Ring doorbell, it could have been very serious. The court then heard that at 7:50 p.m. on May the 5th, Cross was spotted in his green Mazda by a man who challenged him on whether he should be operating the vehicle. Mrs. Miller said Cross became agitated, and when police arrived at 8 p.m, they found him in the middle of the road shouting abuse at the man. Cross pushed a police officer to the ground and resisted arrest before spitting at and kicking another 3 officers. He was taken to Newport Police Station where he attempted to bite 2 officers and gave an alcohol reading of 71 milligrams, more than double the legal limit of 35 milligrams. Concerning the arson charge, Michael McGoldrick, defending, said his client was trying to bin a disposable barbecue, but his bin was full, believing his neighbours would not mind him using their bin, not realising it would catch fire. Mr McGoldrick said Cross is a military veteran who has suffered from mental health issues and has been diagnosed with PTSD. Magistrates ordered a pre-sentence report before sentencing at Crown Court on June the 30th, with Cross given conditional bail and handed an interim 6-month driving ban.
A man had a glass smashed over his head. A man suddenly smashed a glass over someone's head on the dance floor of a popular pub in what was described as an unprovoked attack. Philip Ryan, 31, of Alexandra Road, Cowes, admitted assault, occasioning actual bodily harm when he appeared at Isle of Wight Magistrates Court. Liz Miller, prosecuting, said the victim, Tom Avery, was on the dance floor of the Anchor in Cowes on September the 2nd when the unprovoked attack happened. Ms Miller said Ryan suddenly turned round, finished his drink and slammed the glass down on the top of the victim's head. She said the glass was used as a weapon. Mr Avery was taken to hospital and had to have stitches to his head. Door staff positively identified Ryan a regular in the pub, and police officers found him hiding in a wardrobe at his home. Amy Hosell, representing Ryan, said Ryan claimed the victim was being a bit antagonistic, but admitted smashing the glass on his head. Ryan had no previous convictions, but had past trauma of being abused and bullied when younger, which he said contributed to him lashing out when he felt he was being pushed around. Magistrates adjourned the case to June the 16th for a pre-sentence report.
Sentencing due over indecent images. A pervert who uploaded indecent images of children as young as 5 years old, including some of the most depraved kind on video, will learn his fate when he appears before an Isle of Wight Crown Court later this month. Paul Anthony Batman of Spring Garden, Shanklin, admitted 3 charges of possessing indecent images of children when he appeared before Ireland magistrates on Friday, May the 19th. The police's internet child abuse team revealed Batman uploaded a cache of indecent images of children via his email address, namely 5 Category A, the most serious kind, 7 Category B and 3 Category C. The uploading took place on January the 14th and 15th and March the 15th, 2021. Batman's electronic devices were seized on July the 5th, 2021. He gave no comment in a police interview. Following further investigation, Batman, with no previous convictions, eventually admitted the offences, said Liz Miller, prosecuting. Of the Cat A images, which included video, the children in them was as young as 5 years old. Solicitor Jim Osborne made no representations on Batman's behalf. Magistrates ordered a report on Batman and bailed him until sentencing at the Isle of Wight Crown Court on June the 20th.
Lifeguards' swimming warnings. As islanders flock to the beach this half-term, Ride lifeguards have warned against swimming or using inflatables near the harbour. Todd Miller, the beach manager, said, "We encourage visitors to swim between the red and yellow flags, follow lifeguard advice, and to come to speak to us if you need any advice. First aid, a lost person, or you see somebody in trouble. Please do not swim or use inflatables by Ride Harbour, as there is a strong current at certain periods at high tide. This section of the beach will be red flagged again this year. Ride's lifeguard station is based behind the Big Kahuna Cafe, opposite the canoe lake. The RNLI says, the beach is the perfect place for fresh air and family fun. but the sea is unpredictable and can take you by surprise.
Henry boosted by Arizona training trip. International Ireland-born athlete Henry McLuckie has made an excellent start to his 2023 outdoor track season. To prepare for a busy summer, Henry headed for high-altitude training at Flagstaff, Arizona, alongside other GB athletes. After a 3-week spell there, Henry then headed to the Sounds track meet in Walnut, just outside of Los Angeles, to run 5,000 metres, where he competed in a very high-quality field. From the gun, Henry was near the back of the field, despite running 400-metre laps in 65 and 66 seconds. Passing 3,000 metres in 8 minutes 12 seconds, Henry looked in control as he began to overtake some of the athletes who started too quickly. Until the final kilometre, Henry held his form and sprinted to the line for 4th place in 13 minutes 36.26 seconds, a time well inside the GB European selection time, which is 13.50. The result places Henry in 3rd spot for this year's European Under-23 ranking list. Henry's next challenge was the Great Britain 10,000 metre championships, staged at the prestigious Night of the 10,000 PBs at Parliament Hill Fields, a series of top races for men and women. Henry was placed in the A race, which comprised 37 athletes, many of them top East Africans and Europeans, all looking for qualifying times for the World Championships in Budapest, Hungary in August. Henry had to run a controlled race and was running consistent 68-second laps for the first 5,000 metres. This fast, consistent pace over 25 laps began to take its toll in the final 2 kilometres, but Henry showed great determination, overtaking athletes to finish in 28 minutes 57.18 seconds. As with the 5,000 metres, his time was well inside the under-23 European standard, placing him an excellent 6th in British Championships. Henry will now focus on high-quality races to gain selection for Great Britain in this summer's European Under-23 Championships in Espoo, Finland. Henry's Ireland-based coach, Jeff Watkins, said, "Henry has shown from these 2 performances he has outstanding ability to compete in the longer track events, despite winning bronze at the European Under-20 Championships over the shorter 1,500 metre event." Thorough physiological testing, while part of Great Britain's future programme, it is clear Henry's endurance capacity will help him in a range of running disciplines. I'm delighted with the progress made.
A visiting submarine in the Isle of Wight's sights. Islanders reached for their cameras when a Dutch submarine surfaced off the island's coast. The vessel, listed as NATO warship on vesselfinder.com, was spotted twice in the last week. The county press asked islanders to send in their pictures of the submarine, which was first pictured off the island on Friday, May the 26th. Islanders were lucky enough to spot it passing Yarmouth and Gurnard. It returned again on Bank Holiday Monday, May the 29th, and was moored off Tennyson Down. Crew were spotted out on the deck. The HNLMS Zeeleeuw S803 Walrus class submarine belongs to the Royal Netherlands Navy. It is believed it was carrying out training exercises. A spokesman for NATO Allied Maritime Command said, "We do not comment on Allied submarine operations."
My View by Imogen Chu. The Isle of Wight is so good at making music. 2 Grammys, 2 Brit Awards and a coveted spot touring with the biggest superstar on the planet. Wet Leg has, by anyone's standards, done exceptionally well. For those who somehow haven't already heard of them, Wet Leg is an Ireland-born band that is making some serious waves. Today, Friday, they're in Paris, playing to 80,000 people alongside Harry Styles. As islanders, it's certainly thrilling to have such homegrown talent on the big stage. We should be proud, we should be excited, but there's one thing I don't think we should be: surprised. Personally, I'm not shocked that our island has played a part in Britain's latest musical success. Music feels like an integral part of growing up here. It's a talent that is nurtured, and the chance to make a career of it doesn't feel far-fetched or a pipe dream. It feels tangible. Every Saturday morning, my sister and I headed to Medina for Music Centre, where we first experienced the buzz of playing alongside other musicians. We played our electric guitars at a special concert at Ryde Town Hall's Deep Purple Smoke on the Water, featured prominently, as always with young guitarists, and became hooked on the thrill of playing to an audience. As a teenager, I was envious as my more talented friends joined Platform 1, the top-notch music school where the Wet Leg frontwoman Rhiann Teasdale and Hester Chambers first met. I watched those in bands play at venues like the Black Sheep Bar and Strings. We weren't turned down because we were under 18. Instead, the nights felt cool and adult, and the performers became even more determined to make a living out of their music. As far as I'm aware, this hasn't changed. In fact, to see young bands playing at Strings these days, sometimes you need to queue for hours to get in. Bands from Platform 1 featured in the island's coronation celebrations. Then, of course, there are the festivals. The Isle of Wight Festival is obviously the most famous, and it is especially fun to tell Overners the exceptionally cool fact that Jimi Hendrix played his last gig in England in West Wight. But Rhythm Tree and the Jack-Up events also give young islanders unrivalled access to live music. This was especially true when Bestival was here too, with its slightly smaller feel and free tickets for children under 12. And it's not just rock or indie music. Islanders who performed musical theatre songs every Sunday at Shanklin's Theatre Spotlight have gone on to perform in the West End. Millie O'Connell, now 26, was nominated for an Olivier Award when she was just 22 for her performance as Anne Boleyn in the musical Six, for example. So while we're rightfully famous for our festivals, they are actually only part of the island's great music scene. I won't be surprised if the next big British band is inspired while watching Wet Leg headline the Isle of Wight Festival in a few years' time.
The day the war came to Knighton. Precisely 80 years ago, in a peaceful corner of the island, a village felt the full wrath of the Nazi war machine, killing 8 and injuring the innocent in a swift and sickening air attack. Knighton is a quiet and peaceful place to this day, just as it was before German bombers targeted the village on June the 1st in 1943. In the midst of the Second World War, with the vast majority of Europe under Nazi occupation, Knighton must have seemed a million miles away from the spectre of armed conflict. But on that fateful day, the war came to Knighton as German bombs rained down on homes and businesses in the village with devastating consequences. Attending Knighton Primary School, along with the rest of his chums, the day began just like any other day for Peter Osborne, aged 10 at the time. And then, suddenly, out of the blue, all hell broke loose. Peter, who still lives in Knighton, celebrated his 90th birthday in March. He remembers vividly the chaos of what happened during the air raid. One minute, me and my classmates were in the classroom sat at our desks, and the next, we were all laying on the floor covered in dust and glass, said Peter. I remember the teacher shouting, "Get under your desks, don't come out until we get the all clear." One of the bombs had landed and exploded on a house just 20 metres from the school. The blast had blown out all its windows and those of the surrounding houses, and had thrown the children and teachers to the floor. Thankfully, no one in the school was badly hurt. However, one nearby resident, Mr. J. Jacobs, was killed and his wife badly injured in their house on Institute Hill. Their home took the brunt of the blast. St Catherine's Lighthouse was the Germans' main target, with 3 Trinity House lighthouse keepers and 2 soldiers killed after the generator room took a direct hit. The 3 keepers, William Jones, Richard Grenfell and Charles Tompkins, are buried together in a dedicated Trinity House grave at St John's Parish Church in Knighton. The nearby Undercliff Hotel, the HQ at the time for local Army and RAF personnel, was also bombed. 2 soldiers were killed, while 1 woman worker was buried in the rubble. She was later found alive and recovered from her injuries. The impressive hotel, a popular retreat for many years before the war, was subsequently demolished. If such a terrible thing had happened today, it would make worldwide headlines, never mind in the county press. But in 1943, it may have occupied all but a meagre few column inches due to reporting restrictions the government had placed on the press at that time. The tragedy will be remembered during a special memorial service at Knighton Parish Church on Sunday at 9 o'clock, followed by the laying of flowers on the graves of the 3 lighthouse keepers.
What's on? The D-Day Darlings are on at the Medina Theatre on Sunday the 11th of June at 2 p.m. and tickets are £21. And now, to celebrate the King's coronation, the UK premier wartime act, the D-Day Darlings, are presenting their sensational coronation celebration show. And following on from their huge success on Britain's Got Talent and their VE Day 75 Celebration Edition album I'll Remember You with Sony Music, charting at number 5 in the official UK album charts, the D-Day Darlings have taken the country by storm and have fast become the nation's sweethearts. Their brand new show in celebration of the King's coronation is a song and dance extravaganza for all generations to enjoy, ending with an explosive patriotic finale to bring the show to a glittering climax. It's a show that's suitable for all the family and it's not to be missed. And again, it's on the Medina Theatre Sunday 11th of June at 2 p.m. and tickets are £21.
Singers reveal their final offering. Following the success of their Christmas and spring concerts, Tritone Singers, under the direction of Richard Wilkins, have announced their final offering of the musical year, Over Hill, Over Dale. The choir will present an early summer concert on the theme of flora and fauna. There will be daffodils, primroses, hills and dales, a frog, a cat, a seagull and a bluebird. Featured composers including Vaughan Williams, Britten and Betty Rowe have been inspired by the poetry of Shakespeare, Wordsworth, John Clare and Jackie Froome, among others, to set the texts of these writers. The choir explains that its aim is to reflect the interplay between the poet's text and the composer's interpretation. The concert is at 7 p.m. at All Saints Church, Gurnard, on Saturday, June the 10th. Tickets are available online by visiting the website www.tritonesingers.com. Alternatively, you can buy tickets by telephone calling 01983 567471, or you can buy them on the door on the evening of the concert.
Dimbola exhibition of festival legends. Dimbola's summer show is a celebration of 21 years of the Isle of Wight Festival since it was relaunched in 2002, and it opened on Saturday. It is the first retrospective exhibition of the Isle of Wight Festival that has featured artists such as David Bowie, the Rolling Stones, Amy Winehouse, Neil Young, Bruce Springsteen, Pink, the Red Hot Chili Peppers, Paul McCartney, Blondie and many more. Experience, the Isle of Wight Festival 2002 to 2023, features photographs from all years of the festival along with atmospheric crowd shots. The gallery hosted an open evening for guests and those involved in pulling together the exhibition last Friday. Festival boss John Giddings, Dimbola curator Brian Hinton and Ray Falk, who was with his brothers, lured Bob Dylan over to the Isle of Wight Festival in 1969, were all in attendance. The exhibition and launch evening was organised by Joe Macaulay. John Giddings and Brian Hinton had loaned their own photographs, footage and extensive archives of festival treasures. The exhibition is sponsored by Solo, Barclaycard, the Daisy Rich Trust, The Price is White, Whitelink, Bridlesford Farm, the County Press, Signpost Express, Isle of Wight Distillery, Goddard's Brewery and Wight Karting. If you'd have told me in 2002 that we would still be doing it in 21 years, I would have laughed, said John Giddings. We managed to lose £1 million in the first 2 years, but broke even with The Who and David Bowie in 2004. Thankfully, it has gone from strength to strength year after year and is now one of the top 5 UK festivals. I would never have done it if I hadn't have been there in 1970. It was the Woodstock of Europe, bringing the island to a standstill, with 600,000 people watching Jimi Hendrix and then getting banned for 32 years. Looking back on it, I think I had blind faith. People were talking behind my back, asking, how can you have a festival on an island you can only get to by boat? I believe that one of the attractions... That was actually one of the attractions, and it was like going on holiday, and it also has the most sunshine in the UK. This year, entertainer Robbie Williams will close the main stage on Sunday. The Chemical Brothers and George Ezra are headlining Saturday, and Pulp on Friday. The exhibition at Dimbola will run until September the 17th. Limited edition prints and other merchandise are available to purchase online and in the museum shop.
A free entry to a new Rural Life exhibition at the Museum of Island History at 10 o'clock, 6th of June to the 10th of June. Free entry to the Museum of Island History to celebrate a new exhibition of historic photographs. Museum of Island History, High Street, Newport. And the website is museums@iow.gov.uk, or the telephone number is 01983 823433.
And now some letters. David Parkinson from Totland Bay writes, I understand our council is short of cash and is having increasing trouble producing balanced budgets. May I suggest they fine utility companies who request parking suspensions and then never turn up to do the work? The Broadway in Totland has had parking suspensions in place since May the 8th, severely inconveniencing local residents who need overnight parking. At the time of writing, May the 22nd, no work has been undertaken. It's high time utility companies were penalised for needlessly inconveniencing local residents.
Bad language spoils enjoyment. This is from Maureen Jones in Ventnor. I'm going to sound like a real old fuddy-duddy now, and really I'm not. However, bad language in theatrical productions is a bit of a bugbear. Last week we went to the Apollo Theatre to see Labour of Love. This was a great play with an interesting philosophical message, sadly missed by those who left in the interval, owing mainly, we suspect, to the gratuitous use of really foul language. To be fair, not suitable for those under 15 was the warning. Perhaps it should have added, don't bring your grannies either. Sadly, we cannot watch much on television now without expletives, and this was reflected more than was necessary, we felt, in the drama. Labour of Love went back to the early 1990s and continued with its effing and blinding. This was not the case at that time, so definitely overdone. It was an excellent play spoiled by the overuse of swear words. By contrast, we went to Trinity Theatre to see Alfie Moore's A Fair Cop. There was one F word. It was entertaining and funny. We didn't hear one person complain it wasn't funny because there wasn't enough swearing. Is it just us?
Penelope Baker says no food security. Government attempts to stop food prices rising on basics before the general election have failed to get retailers to cap on basics. It is right, the retailers have said, no, any such cap would have further damaged farming interests, which have already suffered because of this government's policies. On the island, we see farm after farm disappearing. It is something our MP has failed to even mention in his numerous appearances on TV. There is now no long-term food security. The Victorians built reservoirs. The Conservative government's privatisation of the water public utility has resulted in a sell-off of reservoirs to property developers for the financial benefit of shareholders and executives. We now face a situation where water is pumped into the sea as there is no proper storage. As we face climate change drought, the legacy of short-term profits at the expense of long-term water security.
Malcolm Watson from Ryde says that savings make it worthwhile. Claire Allen is mistaken in intimating that Whitelink do not offer discounts for ferry travel for island residents. County Press, 26th of May, 23. But you have to purchase tickets in advance. If she and her husband were able to buy 10 ferry tickets at £330, they could make their return journey to the New Forest for £66, rather than the £292 quoted, and still have 4 more return journeys to enjoy in the 12 months after purchase. They could also offer them to their family for their use too. Red Funnel is best for day returns, which are available for around £45. Both companies offer reductions for foot passengers, for senior citizens, 60 plus, and up to 7 passengers per vehicle at no extra cost. I appreciate not everyone has £330 to pay up front, but the savings do make it worthwhile if a way can be found to do so.
And it's goodbye from Jerry.
And goodbye from Lynn.
The BBC In Touch programme follows. There is no scaffolding news this week.
BBC Sounds. Music, radio, podcasts.
Good evening. Well, after finally getting a UK bank holiday weekend with almost universal good weather, natural enough that our minds should turn to holidays, and In Touch is no exception. But if you are visually impaired, there are often a few extra considerations to take into account when booking a break. And tonight we're featuring 2 women who, in different ways, have addressed this, not only for themselves, but in ways which might help other blind and partially sighted holiday makers. Well, we'll be covering walking, caravans, sailing, but always keeping your independence in mind.
When I'm down here, everything is familiar and I'm not reliant on somebody else being able to point things out to me or help me find where to go. So the benefit of having the static caravan, if you like, continues even after my husband's death, because there is that familiarity with it.
We'll be hearing more from Christine Thomas later in the programme. But we start with Dee Jones, who, when she began to lose her sight, started thinking what holidays would still be practical for her, and is now running her own not-for-profit company, Sense Adventures, which offers bespoke breaks for visually impaired people. She joins us. Dee, first of all, in a nutshell, what sort of things do you offer?
Walking holidays on the Malvern Hills. So when I could see properly, I always walked on the Malvern Hills, walked my dogs pretty much daily. And as I've been starting to lose my sight, I became aware that the hills are actually very accessible and safe as a blind person. So I was motivated by the fact that I still wanted to carry on walking on the hills, and what a great opportunity it would be to be able to share that with other blind and visually impaired people. So the holidays that I've been doing so far, so it's always changing as I respond to demand, are walking holidays for 3 nights. So you come on a Friday, go home on a Monday. We do a full day walking on Saturday, a shorter walk on Sunday, and go and visit somewhere of interest locally on a Sunday afternoon.
The interesting thing about this is that you did think about holidays quite early. I mean, you would think in a way, if you start to lose your sight, holidays wouldn't be the first thing on your mind. Were you aware quite quickly that things were going to get more difficult from that point of view?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. So what I offer is what I would want to do as a sighted person. And it's not easy to find, but it doesn't actually take much to facilitate it for a blind and visually impaired person. Going for a walk on the hills, I find difficult now on my own, but I just have a friend go with me, or with Sense Adventures, we have these wonderful volunteer guides. So I've got around about 40 guides now.
I mean, people's independence and the amount of help that they might need vary considerably. How do you match people up with volunteers, for example? There's the issue of how much stamina people have got, how far they want to walk. It's quite complicated, isn't it?
Yes, it is. But I like to talk to people a lot before they come. And also, well, I know from my own experience, there are days when I'm more confident in walking and I might not need so much help as on other days when I might be tired or if the light changes. I do give training to the volunteers and I go through all of that. And we do have some people that come regularly, so we all get to know each other, but we quite often have new people.
The first activity I went on was a walk on the Malverns.
Patrick Adams, a regular enthusiast for Sense Adventures trips.
It gave me the opportunity to meet a number of other visually impaired people I didn't know, and a lot of local people who were the guides. So the first and obvious benefit was, of course, a jolly good walk uphill and down dale, and then we stop, all have a picnic, and then we swap guides, and you've got somebody else to talk to. I get a tremendous amount out of it. I can see things in my head, and I can visualise where we're going, even though the visualisation may be not accurate. You've got to keep moving in this life, and a good Saturday's walk, getting the old heart rate up and the blood pressure down at the end of it all, it's a great day out.
I always emphasise that it's not a fitness competition, that it's about being out for the day. We walk at the pace of the slowest people, and I always have extra guides as well. So if anybody is struggling or feels they want to go back down, which hasn't happened, then someone can always go back down with them. So it's really not an issue. I mean, they're safe. They're not like the Black Mountains or whatever. So you can get down easily. But also I know pretty much most of the paths.
It's interesting, you're talking about safety there, Dee. I have walked a fair bit in the Malvern Hills because I went to school at Worcester and it's only just down the road from there, of course.
Oh, of course.
I didn't walk that often. On one occasion, I was almost hit by a boulder which seemed to get dislodged from somewhere way above me and came bouncing down the hill.
Oh, my gosh.
And the next time I went, a swarm of bees decided to settle on us. So, I mean, it can be risky from time to time, can't it? I mean, walking is not wholly danger-free.
No. I mean, all I can think is don't come for the third time. You're due for a third one, aren't you?
Yeah, perhaps I'm just injury-prone.
Yes, that's very unusual. I mean, to be honest, I'm very cautious. There are parts of the hills where it's more the terrain, really, that is not so good. And I avoid those bits. I do know it very well, especially now that I walk so much as, I have to be so careful myself. So.
And have you expanded? I mean, do you do walks in other parts of the country?
Well, this is what I'm just looking at the moment. So we have a holiday in Devon in September. And I have local contacts. I've made a friend through sailing, actually.
We'll come on
who
to
lives
that.
down there. Yes, absolutely. So it's another thing. It's opened up for me. But some of the regular people that come on the holidays have been saying they love coming to Malvern, but they want to go to other parts of the country. And so all things are possible. OK, now, as well as being director of Sense Adventures, you're also now the chair of VISA, which is the Visually Impaired Sailing Association. How did that come about? Well, I've always loved boats and I heard about VISA, and then the opportunity came to go to Mallorca and spend a week on a yacht in Mallorca. It was just before lockdown. a space came available at the last minute, and the membership secretary, Sue, called me. And I was blown away by it. It's an amazing experience as a blind person.
I'd never done it before, and I wanted to get out of my comfort zone and do something that I thought most people would think is completely impossible for somebody with no sight to do.
You're always invited to come and join in and participate. So I've been on the tiller, I've been pulling up the mast, I've been putting buoys out the side, and it's brilliant for my confidence.
It's fun, it's expansive. I've learnt so much, not only as a sailor but as a person. The way we communicate, the way we interact. There's real growth happens on these trips.
And what kind of trips does Visa offer?
This year we've got about 7 trips. One is a warm weather trip in Menorca, and the others are along the south coast. Well, we have taster sails for the day, we have 4-day trips, and we have week-long sails. So for the 4-day and the week-long sails, you live on the yacht and you cook and everything, which is a big part of the empowering thing, I think, as a blind person, to go into totally different environment in a small galley cooking for 7 people, and you sail. If you're blind, you can sail.
Do you need sailing experience to come on these things?
No, not at all. So I went completely new. I'd never been on a yacht before. We have 3 sighted crew to 4 blind or visually impaired crew, and if you haven't been before, you've got someone there all the time. It's the same ethos really as Sense Adventures, where as a crew on the yacht, you work as a team. It just happens that some are blind or visually impaired and some can see. So you're not a passenger. You're doing all of the tasks. You take the helm, which is wonderful. It's very intuitive feeling how the boat is. You hoist the sails, you moor the anchor, you do absolutely everything. I mean, I can't get enough of it. It's just wonderful.
Anything particularly exciting coming up in the near future on the Visa front?
Yes, so we've got a Milford Haven for a week in September. There's still some gaps there. And if we sail as 3 boats, then that's an extra sort of sociable experience because we get together in the evening, have pontoon parties, if you like. And then we've got some Southampton, we've got some spaces in August, which is a 4-day trip, so sailing up and down the Solent. We've got some taster days as well.
Dee Jones, thank you very much indeed. And just while we're on the subject of holidays on the water, we also heard from Susan Bramer. She told us about the Nancy Oldfield Trust, which provides holidays and water activities for people who wouldn't otherwise be able to access the Norfolk Broads. They have a fully accessible bungalow on site and another house a few miles away, which is also accessible. In both cases, water activities are included free of charge. Cruiser trips, sailing, canoeing, paddle boats and paddle boarding, all accompanied by qualified instructors and safety boats. Now, one of the aspects of going on holiday which can get in the way of a good time is the loss of familiarity with your surroundings and all your stuff, knowing where everything is, something you probably take for granted when you're at home. Well, it's an issue that Christine Thomas has thought about quite deeply, and she's found an answer to this, although, as we'll hear, recent circumstances have made it even more important to her. Christine, explain what your solution has been to keeping your independence while on holiday.
My solution has been to purchase a static caravan on a holiday park. It means that I know exactly where the cooker is, how it works, where things are within the caravan. They don't get moved by other people. And things like being able to just leave our belongings here. So there's actually less to pack each time we decide to come away.
And the point you made in the email that you sent us is, with the static caravan, you actually know the routes. Can you just tell me a bit more detail about that? I mean, what has that actually meant to you?
Well, it's quite close to a beach, so it means that I can actually walk over to the beach without asking anybody to drive me or to take me there. It's a fairly quiet location, and so it's a fairly quiet road to get over to the beach. I'm also fortunate that it's in a small village in Cornwall, It looks out onto St Austell Bay, which is on the south coast of Cornwall. And that has a one-way system, so I can get to some local shops, such as the supermarket and the pharmacy. A lot of caravans these days have patio doors on the front of the van, and there'll be some decking. So what is lovely is I can walk out onto the decking straight in the morning without having to go somewhere else first, so you can sit outside in the sunshine straight away.
And I suppose the other point is that you can do that now as soon as you get there, whereas, with other new holiday places, it takes 3 or 4 days, really, before you really know the setup, if you ever get to know it at all.
Well, that's right. And I like your point there, if ever you get to know it at all, because sometimes you could be there a number of days and it's only near the end of the holiday that you think, oh, there was an easier way to do this, or we could have asked for this assistance.
That's right. Well, you usually find out on the last day, don't you, really?
Yes. Yes.
Now, of course, all that was true when you had a sighted partner with you, your husband, who sadly died a few weeks ago. How much has that changed your situation?
Well, he had been poorly for some time, but we hadn't expected that ending to it. However, while he was poorly, and we were at the caravan site, I was still able to see to quite a lot of his needs because I knew where the pharmacy was. We could contact the health centre.
Yeah.
It enabled him to feel that life was as normal as possible, really, and he was in a nice location. In some ways, some things are still, well, many things really are still possible to do. So I can still do the journey down here by train. When I'm down here, I'm not reliant on somebody else being able to point things out to me or help me find where things are or where to go or how to get to the shops and things like that. So the benefit of having the static caravan, if you like, continues even after my husband's death because there is that familiarity with it. And I think what was nice for Jim is he could come away and not have to keep monitoring me and keeping an eye on me, and it gave him a little bit more freedom as well.
Yeah, because presumably, had you not had that familiarity, it might have been tempting, really, to, over this period to sort of hide away a bit or not want to go somewhere unknown on your own.
Yes, indeed. For example, a member of the family has invited me to go and visit them and have a holiday with them, and that's a couple of 100 miles away on the train, and I don't feel I have the confidence to do that, certainly not at the moment, because it would be too big a step to feel completely independent, to try something completely new.
Not everybody can buy a static caravan, of course, for all sorts of reasons. Maybe they don't want to, maybe they can't afford to. This has obviously made an enormous difference to you, the fact that you've got this independence so soon after you arrive.
Yes, and indeed, a part of the pleasure is you get to know where the sun is coming up, where it's going down. You then start to realise that there are perhaps trees and shadows and reflections that all add to the experience that you don't necessarily spot when you're just in somewhere for 5 or 6 days. And there is a harbour a few hundred yards away. And for some time, I really couldn't work out how the little boats on the sea got into the harbour because all there was a wall, what appeared to be a solid wall. We'd been coming down here for about 4.5 years before I was on the beach one day. The sun was at a particular angle and I was standing in a particular place, and suddenly I could see the gap in the harbour wall as to where the boats were going in and out. But it took that period of time before I could ever actually recognise where the gap in the wall was. It just feels as though it's almost home from home. And we used to joke that this was our posh house extension because it has a gas cooker here instead of an old Rayburn that we had where we lived. So it's much easier to do some of the things in the modern caravans because they're well insulated, they've got central heating. So the actual lifestyle sometimes is easier than things that you might have to, shall I say, put up with at home.
Christine, thank you very much indeed. Now, most of the tips we give on this programme come from other listeners, which is why we're always keen to enlist your help. 2 issues coming up on the programme soon. We're going to be looking at the RNIB's helpline, how it works, who it's for, and we'd like to hear your experiences if you've used it. Also, we're planning to look in more detail at the controversy surrounding the suggestion that some train companies are considering closing some of their on-station ticket offices as a way of cutting costs. We want to hear about your experiences of buying tickets and whether you're having any particular problems in buying especially the cheaper offers such as off-peak advance tickets from your local station. And just one more thing, we mentioned a couple of weeks back a consultation that the Civil Aviation Authority, the CAA, is mounting about access for disabled people when dealing with airlines. In particular, what problems guide dog owners may be having leaving and re-entering the country with their dogs. Well, we drew the CAA's attention to the difficulties some visually impaired people may have making their suggestions online. As a result, they now tell us that there'll be a telephone line available between 9 a.m. and 5 p.m, Mondays to Fridays, while the consultation is going on. The number is 0330 138 5015. We'll have that on our website as well. And the consultation is open until July the 21st. As for us, you can email in touch at bbc.co.uk. Leave us your voice messages on 0161 836 1338 or go to our website if you're able. That's bbc.co.uk/in touch. From me, Peter Wight, producer Beth Hemmings and studio managers Amy Brennan and John Cole. Goodbye.